Hello, YouTube. This is Jay Coder back with another stream, and today we're going to do something a bit different. I've been wanting to learn how to hook up a AI model to external tools, such as having an assistance AI be able to call APIs and different functions and data to use outside of its training. So, if you want to learn that too, go ahead and stay tuned and subscribe to this channel and like this video. And without further ado, let's get started. So, the way I want to do this today is I want Chat GPT to teach us about the subject. And so the main thing that I want to go over for today is if you see the screen, you see function calling. And this is the information I would like to go over today. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Chat GPT help us go over this. And so what I'm going to do is can you please give me a detailed explanation and lesson regarding the contents of this page? All right. It is giving us that. And what I'm going to have it do is I'm going to have it read this to us as well because it has a pretty good voice and that will make things flow pretty well. I just have to let it finish. All right, here we go.
The OpenAI documentation on function calling provides detailed guidance on how to use the function calling feature in OpenAI's GPT models. This feature allows developers to integrate functions into the chat model, enabling it to generate API calls based on user inputs, extract information, and perform various tasks dynamically. Here's a breakdown of the key concepts and instructions covered in the guide. Overview of function calling. Function calling allows GPT models to generate JSON objects that correspond to API calls or function calls. This capability is useful for performing actions such as retrieving real-time data, executing calculations, or interacting with external services. The model can be instructed to output a function call formatted in JSON, which can then be executed by a back-end system. How function calling works. The function calling process involves three main steps. Step 1. Defining functions. You define functions you want the model to call. These functions are described using a standardized schema based on JSON schema. This schema includes the function name, description, and the parameters it accepts, including their types and descriptions. Step 2. Model suggests functions. When a user query is processed, the model can either respond directly or suggest a function to call. If the query matches the defined function's purpose, the model generates a JSON object representing the function call. Step 3. Executing and responding. Your application takes the JSON object, executes the function, and then returns the results to the user. The model can use these results to provide a more informative response. Defining functions in OpenAI. Functions are defined within the functions parameter when making a request to the OpenAI API. The function schema is defined using a JSON-like structure. JSON name getCurrentWeather, description, get the current weather in a given location, parameters, type object, properties, location, type string, description, the city and state, e.g. San Francisco, CA. Unit, type string, enum, Celsius Fahrenheit, Description, the temperature unit, required location. Name, the function's identifier. Description, a brief explanation of what the function does. Parameters. This is defined using a JSON schema to describe the input parameters the function expects. 4. Function call responses from the model. The model might decide to respond with text. If no function is needed, it simply returns a natural language response. Call a function. If a function is relevant, the model outputs a JSON object to call that function. The model's decision is influenced by the function schema, user input, and any additional instructions provided. Number 5. Example of function calling in practice. Here's an example illustrating how function calling can be integrated. User input. What's the weather in New York? Model output. The model outputs a JSON object suggesting calling the getCurrentWeather function with location New York. Backend execution. The backend system executes the function, fetches the weather data from an external API, and provides the results back to the model. Final response. The model then crafts a final coherent response based on the function's output, such as the current weather in New York is 72 degrees with clear skies. Handling errors and fallbacks. When integrating function calls, handling potential errors or fallbacks is crucial. Invalid or missing parameters. If the user input does not provide all required parameters, the model can be instructed to ask for missing information. Execution errors. If the function execution fails, e.g., due to an external API error, you can handle this gracefully by returning an informative message to the user or retrying the request. Step 7. Use cases for function calling. Function calling is highly versatile and can be used in various scenarios. Data retrieval, pulling data from databases, APIs, or web services, e.g., weather data, stock prices, news headlines. Dynamic content generation, creating personalized responses based on user data or external data sources. Automated tasks, performing actions such as sending emails, setting reminders, making reservations, or generating reports. Interactive applications, building interactive and dynamic chatbots or virtual assistants that require real-time data or complex logic. 8. Best practices. To effectively use function calling, consider the following best practices. Clear and concise function definitions. Ensure function descriptions are clear and parameters are well defined. This helps the model understand when and how to use the function. Parameter validation. Validate parameters to ensure the model is calling the function with appropriate data. This reduces the risk of errors. User feedback. Provide informative feedback to users, especially if a function call fails or requires additional input. 9. Security considerations. Security is crucial when using function calling. Input sanitization. Always sanitize inputs to prevent injection attacks or misuse. Rate limiting and monitoring. Monitor and limit API usage to prevent abuse or excessive costs. Error handling. Implement robust error handling to manage failures gracefully without exposing sensitive information. Number 10. Getting started with function calling. To start using function calling with OpenAI's GPT models, 1. Set up your OpenAI API key. Ensure you have access to the OpenAI API and obtain your API key. 2. Define functions. Create your function schemas as described earlier. 3. Make API requests. Use the OpenAI.chatCompletion.create endpoint to make API requests, passing your functions in the functions parameter. 4. Process responses. Handle model outputs, execute suggested functions, and return results back to the model for a final response. 11. Advanced function calling features. The documentation also covers more advanced features and configurations, such as using multiple functions. You can define multiple functions and let the model choose the most appropriate one. Customizing model behavior. Adjusting the model's behavior using system messages and other prompt engineering techniques to fine-tune its outputs and function suggestions. Conclusion. OpenAI's function calling is a powerful feature that allows developers to create more interactive and dynamic applications by leveraging the GPT model's ability to understand and execute functions based on natural language input. By following the guidelines and best practices in the documentation, you can build sophisticated AI-driven applications that respond intelligently to user queries and automate various tasks seamlessly.
All right. And so it looks like functions can be powerful, whether it's getting the stock market data or getting the current weather for the AI model to retrieve and use. And these can be extensions to the AI model because the AI model might not know everything, and it especially doesn't specialize in certain things. And with a function call, it can be able to extend itself to other data and intelligently be able to know specialized things and talk about specialized things it's not originally trained for. And so I wanted to go over this today because I think it's a good thing to know whether you are a web developer or a Android developer or mobile developer. You can be able to make these AI assistant um, and use these AI assistants to call things like APIs to make a more powerful app or a more powerful web app. And well, I hope you like this. I hope you learned something. And well, that's what I wanted to go over for today. And subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment, and until next time, stay coding. Peace.